someone's bed and the wall is caved in. You can just imagine the nightmare that was here a few hours ago.
This is my apartment.
It just picked up the road and just slipped it.
Is everything damaged? I cannot believe that, man.
I just hope everybody finds a safe place to go.
Middle Tennessee's only primetime news. This is Fox 17 News at 9, your Code Red station.
Good evening. At least 4 people are dead and more than 100 people are recovering this evening after having to be rescued from their flooded neighborhoods. So many families impacted tonight. We know that at least 7 inches of rain has fallen in Nashville alone. We've got a lot of rivers, creeks, and streams that are out of their banks. I'm Jennifer Waddell reporting for Fox 17 News at 9 tonight, and we're live along the Cumberland River. Let's show you now what it's looking like. It is over its banks. In fact, we are along Riverfront Park. I would say that the water here is about halfway up. Typically, you'd be able to go down these steps, walk out onto where it's flooded right now and enjoy a concert or another activity, take pictures. And it is moving quickly this evening. Right where we're standing, it's a little stagnant. In fact, you can see some trash here. But once you look out across the river toward Nissan Stadium, moving at a good clip in the direction of the stadium. We're going to get an update on the river conditions, also on some of our major streams from our Code Red meteorologist, Greg Bobus. And right now, I want to send it back in studio to my colleague, Fox 17 News, Scott Couch. Scott, good evening.
Jen, good evening. Thank you. Yes, the water level is rising and it will get worse. We have live team coverage across the midstate as people are forced out of their homes, some of them with only the clothes on their backs. Businesses and churches left in utter ruin tonight. Some of the worst damage that we have seen so far, and it's widespread, but some of the worst we've seen is in South Nashville. Dozens of people there are trying to find a place to stay tonight after rushing water took down a wall of an apartment building, leading to more than a dozen rescues. The National Fire Department, in fact, tells us 15 people had to be helped from their homes. You're seeing video of one of those rescues there. Fox 17 News' Rachel Teedy's now live in front of the City View Apartments on Linbar Drive, just off 24 in South Nashville, to show us the damage that I understand will easily take weeks to repair.
The creek that runs by this apartment complex, Scott, looks small and innocent enough, but that was not the case yesterday evening as that water rose high enough to wipe out the bottom floors of 4 different apartment buildings. People say they had to be out by 6 tonight, and they're not quite sure when they'll be able to return home.
This is my apartment.
Abby Boldock said she's lived here for 3 years and said she could not believe the water rushing into apartments below hers.
All I see is water. Like, there's water. Like halfway up that bank was nothing but water. All the way to the building was nothing but water.
She said she barely slept last night.
The guy's wife had called him to come home. She couldn't get out. All the water was pouring into her apartment. He had to break the door in from the outside, and she was chest deep in water.
The water receded now, but the damage still very apparent. Parking lots full of people waiting for tows for waterlogged cars, people packing up their lives, unsure of where to go.
Leaving it, my little safe space, is kind of emotional, you know, and I have a dog and a bird that I have to worry about finding a place to stay too.
We were here last night, shortly after the 911 calls rang out, people trapped in the bottom apartments.
It's so scary because we never see this kind of flood in Nashville. This is the first flood we see in Nashville.
Some folks inconsolable.
The lady was crying so badly. I was feel so bad for her.
The apartment complex says the Red Cross is working to find housing for everyone displaced. The leasing office says all the first floor residents have been given a housing assignment. Second and third floor residents are next. But they can't stay here because power to the buildings must be cut to work on repairs. Boldock saying it might be weeks before they can return.
I don't know how they're going to get that much work done in 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm hoping for the best.
Luckily, there were no deaths or serious injuries, but it's the memories of the damage caused by a small creek that might last a while. Now, the apartment complex says that there is a GoFundMe link set up to help any of these residents as much as they can. You can find that at fox17.com. Live in Antioch, Rachel Teedy, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Rachel, thank you very much. And we continue our team coverage tonight by going over to Bellevue. They have a lot of road closures right now and flooding in many neighborhoods. We saw one fire truck get swept away. We've had another Premier High School in Bellevue with some damage as well. Fox 17 News' Dennis Ferrier joins us live this morning in Bellevue. And Dennis, I got to tell you, I've heard from a lot of our viewers in that part of town, in Bellevue's west of Nashville, for those of you who are new to town, but a lot of folks said it feels like they're reliving 2010 all over again.
That's right, Jen. You know, it's PTSD, or here in Bellevue, you could call it PTFD, post-traumatic flood disorder, because in 2010, 1,000 residents lost part or all of their home. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was unthinkable. But when you've lived through the unthinkable once, nothing is unthinkable again. A Nashville fire truck heading to a water rescue slides off the road and into the engorged Harpeth River. No one's hurt, but that expensive fire truck is gone. This is right next to the Bellevue driving range and three-par golf course, a place that floods easily, but almost never like this. Ensworth High School, the private school that feels like a college campus, suffered an unknown amount of damage. The high school's entire fleet of buses underwater, and it appears that water got into the ground floor of the school. Down in Harpeth Bend subdivision, where dozens of homes were destroyed in 2010, Jimmy Hampton rebuilt right here and relived 2010 last night.
It was hard for me to sleep last night, and I'm thankful that the cell phones were going off 3 or 4 times. I'd wake up and, it would be over at 3:30 a.m. I'm going, okay, well, that would be good. Then it alarm again. It's not. So it'd be over at 7, and I'm going, so maybe my prayer was going, well, Lord, maybe we can just stop. If we can make it to 3:30, it's going to be okay. And it kept coming and kept coming, and it was just weird.
Who could blame him for the jitters? When the Hamptons decided to leave in 2010, they barely got out alive. Not going to let that happen again.
Whenever he goes past that tree, that's the warning sign. So we woke up this morning, all of us, and we saw those past the tree, and we're like, okay, let's start moving the electronics, into the car, start calling up friends.
And it hit the tree, covered the swing, swamped the trampoline, but the water stopped. The big collective sigh of relief in Bellevue tonight. You can hear it everywhere. It didn't get us this time. But way too close, way too close. The significant difference this time is that everybody in Bellevue is laying their head on their own pillow, on their own bed, in their own house. No one displaced. And that is good news. Reporting live for Fox 17 News, I'm Dennis Ferrier, Code Red Station.
Dennis, thank you so much. Small blessing there. Well, as Jen Waddell said right off the top of the newscast, 7 inches in Nashville, but we weren't the standard. I mean, some people got more.
Many areas got upwards of 8 inches worth of rain, and I'd say a good swath of the viewing area in general saw at least 5 inches worth of rainfall. These are just some of the more impressive totals that we saw, or at least the higher end here. Franklin, 8.65 inches worth of rain. Clark Range, 8.41. There's Nashville on the bottom of the screen, 7.01 inches. A few more for you here. These are more than impressive when it comes to the small amount of time in which this rain did come down. Centerville, 7.76 inches. Lebanon, 7.05. We saw all of that within about 24 hours, give or take, just a touch there. I've got one good thing for you. We Doppler radar is dry. It will stay dry for the rest of today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, so we can begin to start to see water levels go down over the next 48 hours. I stress next 48 hours. Right here, every lime-shaded green box is a flood warning. And in the last hour or so, almost every one of our major rivers in every one of these counties has had these flood warnings extended until further notice. There's not even a timing of when they're going to release a few of these flood warnings from the map. Cumberland itself, what we saw, Jen, just a few minutes ago, here's the forecasted river crest for us here. So we're sitting right where this blue line is at, right near 40 feet. The forecast is to go up about another foot or 2, potentially 3. And take a look at the timeline on this. Things may not begin to go down until early Wednesday. That's why even though we're done with the rain, all that runoff has to make it into our rivers, and that's why things will go up before they go down when it comes to any body of water, especially ones in low-lying areas and spaces that are prone to flooding. Coming up in your forecast, we're going to look ahead to more of what happened. There's plenty to tell to this story. We had a flash flood emergency, very rare thing to be issued. We'll talk about what that is and why it's so important, and then we'll start looking ahead to the upcoming week. There is some more additional rain, how much we can see in just minutes.
Greg, thank you. Continuing coverage now as Metro Police released new details about the 4 people killed here in Davidson County in last night's storms. They are 70-year-old Gary Cole of South Nashville. His body was found in a car submerged in floodwaters. 65-year-old Douglas Hammond's body was found on the village golf course at Nashboro Village. 2 other victims, a 46-year-old woman and a 64-year-old man, were found near a homeless camp. Governor Bill Lee responding to the loss of life on Twitter today, saying we are saddened by the deaths caused by last night's devastating flooding. He went on to say that our thoughts are with those displaced by this storm, and we thank all of our emergency responders for their tireless work overnight.
Continuing our coverage this evening, a story that shows the humanity in all of this devastation. It really is nothing short of a miracle. This morning, when Fox 17 News was live on the air during the height of the storms and the flooding, Fox 17 News' Justin McFarland was reporting live from an apartment complex where a man was desperate to find his car keys so he could get his family to safety. And the way that this whole story unfolded is something you have got to see. Here's Fox 17 News' Justin McFarland to share it with you.
I got a call from my wife, and she couldn't open the door because the water came in from the other side, and the door was shut. I had to break the door down and got my family out the best way I could. And right now, I'm trying to find my car keys, because my car is down there, but I lost my keys, trying to get them out the house. And that's where I'm at now. Wow. My family's up there to his apartment. I got a newborn child. Like I said, they were standing on furniture. I had to break the door down to get them out. And yeah.
I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. So you're looking for your car keys now and just trying to...
I just found my wallet and my phone was underwater. I just came down here to get that because my main focus was getting my family to safety.
So you broke down the door?
Yeah. Apartment B104, yeah. I broke it down with a hammer.
Here we go. Are these the keys?
Got my keys. I'm on, hey. I'm on, okay. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
A miracle, the small things. Well, businesses in Franklin not spared by the devastation of this flood. Fifth and Barber suffering some serious water damage. You can see from these pictures inside its location there. You can see this and more pictures we have of damage not only in Franklin, South Nashville, other counties all around the midstate. At our website, fox17.com, just look under the Chime In tab.
Floodwater busting out windows and tearing up concrete. A look at the recovery efforts in Mount Juliet coming up.
Our coverage of the severe weather continues now. Flooding impacting cities all over the midstate, from this Walmart on Nolensville Road to the water rescue that happened in Jackson County to a submerged car in Rutherford County. The damage widespread, forcing several school closures for tomorrow and delays, among them Wilson, Warren, Cannon, Jackson, and Perry County schools in the midstate all closed tomorrow. Jen?
Scott, when we talk about the damage now that is left over from all of this severe weather, we would be remiss if we didn't mention what so many families have already been through. I mean, if we go back to the March 3rd tornadoes and everything that 2020 brought, and here we are in 2021 and so many families yet again going through another round of devastating flooding. And we're going to have families that will be cleaning up for weeks, if not months, after what's happened in the last 24 hours. Fox 17 News' Jackie Del Pilar joins us live this evening in Mount Juliet, where, Jackie, I understand we've got, about a dozen or more businesses right now that are going to have to clean up and shut down in order to do it.
Just this morning, all the businesses in this complex here were under 3 to 5 feet of water. This entire parking lot looked more like a lake than a parking lot, and you can still see the damage left behind. Just beside me here, you can see this big chunk of blacktop is missing, and you're wondering, where did that go? Well, I'll show you. Just about 20-30 feet down here, you can see scattered pieces of that pavement, and then these giant blocks of blacktop over here. You can really put it together in your mind like giant puzzle pieces swept away by the storms. Business owners around here tell me it'll take a month or two until everything's back to normal. A 3 a.m. wake-up call that no one wants to hear.
He said, "Hey, I hate to tell you this, but water is busted out through the front glass. So this is it."
Pastor Jared Smith rushed to his church to find it underwater.
A wall of water about 3.5 feet high just busted through the wall and just washed everything through the hallways and busted out the front glass. I mean, it was just a complete loss.
They're now without a worship space 1 week before Easter.
We're hopeful. The church is not a building, like we always say that. The church is people, but you know, it's devastating at the same time.
Neighboring businesses also feeling that devastation.
It come through with such a force that it was pushing furniture from the back of offices to the front. Oh.
Terry Burns says this is the 4th time since 2010 that this strip mall experienced flooding. He's all too familiar with the cleanup process.
It'll probably take 4 to 8 weeks to get the floor out, the walls cut, dried out, the risk of mold to be gone, and to get it rebuilt and refinished.
Volunteers swarmed the strip mall today, helping clean up what they could.
As sad as it is, and as much hard work as we know that is around the corner, we're encouraged by everyone's willingness to participate and help.
The new flood damage just down the street from the 2020 tornado damage. The cleanup showing just how resilient these neighbors can be. A handful of homes were also flooded overnight, and a local bridge was completely washed out, closed indefinitely. That part of the story coming up at 9:30. Reporting live in Mount Juliet, I'm Jackie Del Pilar with Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Jackie, thank you. Time for the weather now. Greg Bobus has been working overtime for days, and you're going to continue to, because the rain, while it has stopped, the, I guess, piling up of the water hasn't, we don't even know yet.
That's one thing with flooding is the rain stops and you think, okay, we're in the clear, but you're not necessarily. And some of the areas that are prone to flooding will continue to see water levels crest over the next 24 to 36 hours. So things will get a little worse in many spots, not the flash flooding. I really want to emphasize that. Areas that saw the water quickly go up and then down, those areas are likely okay, but all of our bodies of water, our major rivers, will continue to see those water levels rise for at least the rest of Monday into Tuesday, if not early Wednesday. The one thing we have going for us is the next several days will at least be dry. So we'll start the week on a dry note. Next rain chance not to the middle of the week, but now we have cold mornings as well. We're going to stay in monitoring mode for our code red threat level, not for additional incoming weather, but for that potential to see those rising water levels continue. What is new tonight? Let's break it down. No additional rainfall. I'm not concerned, like I mentioned, about flash flooding, where we'll see water levels quickly climb like they did last night. Low-lying areas and bodies of water. Those are the areas we're still watching the water finally make its runoff from some of the higher elevations. Broadway camera, not stopping folks from getting out here today, even though we did have a very rough yesterday into the nighttime. Things kind of back to normal for some spots, most of us not just yet. I mentioned cold nights. 35 overnight tonight. Clear and breezy, so that wind will pick up a little bit. Tomorrow morning, if you're up early, we could have wind chills close to 30 degrees. We could have some patchy frost after midnight especially. So you're going to wake up very cold on Monday morning. And then the end of the week, even though there's no rain Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, those 3 days you wake up very cold as well. Our one rain chance Tuesday late in the day after sunset into Wednesday. That's the next weather maker. Planning tomorrow, we're A-OK, past that cold start. Low 60s and sunshine for the rest of the day. What's that weather maker do when it gets here? Monday and Tuesday, A-OK. We do track, though, that rain moving in after dark on Tuesday. You'll see this cold front move in, and that'll lead us into your Wednesday. That push will bring us colder weather, and coming up next half hour, we're going to see how much additional rainfall this is going to put down and look ahead to that 7-day forecast.
Greg, thank you. Forced to move to higher ground. How last night's severe weather impacted campers in East Tennessee getting ready for the NASCAR Cup Series dirt track race at Bristol Motor Speedway.